Hello and welcome. On today's video we're going to be trying to make a passive speaker for a mobile phone. So let's get to it. So for this build I'm going to be using 1mm thick plastic sheeting, which was actually an old sign that I found, a whiteboard type wipe off sign that I've sanded down roughly. So I've cut out the bits for the main box that I've measured to fit my phone, and I'm just gluing them in here. Now as you can see, this is a different camera setup for me. Most of this build was actually done when I was on holiday, so I was trying a different camera setup. Not sure if it works or not, you'll have to let me know in the comments. So the glue that I'm using is not actually a glue, it's actually a plastic solvent. Now this works by slightly melting the plastic on both sides, and then when the solvent evaporates off, it has welded the plastic back together into one part. That's the way it's meant to work. This one is actually a plumber's solvent for joining waste pipes and things together. Probably not the best to use, it's more of a gel than a liquid, so I couldn't get him into all the gaps properly. So that's the base of the box completed. As you can see, there's some channels there to direct sound towards the exit where the sound horn will be, and as you can see, it fits my phone quite nicely. So now I've marked out the 8 leaves of the flower trumpet, and you can see exactly, you don't have to cut all the way through the plastic. You can cut or score halfway through, bend the plastic, and then it cuts or snaps along the score line. So I've got the 8 leaves of the petal cut, and now comes the difficult bit of actually trying to glue them together into a round shape. Now this proved difficult because it's a flat bit of plastic and I'm trying to bend them into compound curves. So I tried heating them up and bending them slightly. This sort of worked and sort of didn't. As you'll see, the glue just wasn't man enough, because the plastic was constantly fighting against it. So I've enclosed the base of the box, and this is just a fascia plate to go over the top, just so I don't have any panel lines going into it. And I've did an 8-sided funnel to fit into that. Now originally I tried using a bit of PVC pipe round and bending it to shape, but because I didn't have a spring, it just kept crimping and deforming, so I had to make something up. So a phonograph wouldn't be a phonograph without a turntable. So I cut several discs to act as the actual turntable, and then one for the actual record itself. I decided later that this wasn't big enough, so I cut another one to put on top of that. So after several days of failures with the flower style trumpet, I gave up and I had to go to a straight 8-sided horn. It's not ideal, it doesn't promote the proper sound propagation, but gluing compound curves in plastic is just way too difficult. Okay, so that's all the gluing together finally completed. So it's okay. It's not too bad. There are some bits that don't fit properly, but that's just the plastic fighting me and wanting to retain its shape. So now comes the tedious priming and sanding and priming and sanding, which I'm not going to show you too much of because that's boring. And what I'm going to be using is a plastic primer, which I got from the local Halfords. For those elsewhere, it's an automotive parts store. So I'll get back to you once all that's done and show you the final product. Okay, that's the sanding and priming done. Not too bad. So now it's just the painting. So the painting I'm going to use a brown for the main cabinet. I might lighten it up with a bit of white. Black for the disc. And then for the horn I'm using a metallic colour. They're all acrylics, but this is a pouring paint, so I'm not entirely certain how it's going to work. So let's find out. Okay, so I'm trying out this pouring paint. You can't see too much of it, unfortunately. You'll get a better shot in a minute. However, I decide halfway through doing the actual funnel start that it was just not going on thick enough. So I then swapped to a different paint that I borrowed off my wife, and that's what you will see as the copper colour. Okay, so I have done the painting of the object. So there it is. I'm not happy with how coppery the horn turned out, and it is way too bright for my liking. So what I'm going to try and do is use the brass pouring paint, which, although a couple of thin coats will hopefully dull the colour and change the hue slightly, so hopefully it'll look better. Okay, so I have just quickly painted that. As I hoped, it has dulled it down slightly. It is still wet at the moment. So what I'm going to do is let it fully dry, then give it another quick coat, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so here's the final product, finished painting. I've done a bit of touch up. The colour is a bit more brassy, it's still too shiny for my opinion, but there we go. So the question is, how does it actually work? Okay, so there we go. So in my opinion, it doesn't really make it that much louder. However, to me it sounds less tinny and clearer. It also projects the sound further. So the further you are from the speaker or the phone, then it's clearer with this, whatever the hell you want to call it. So we'll do some glamour shots, and that's it for this one.